Joe Biden. Joe Biden. The other bigot, racist, rapist, liar in the race. Well, take a look at this. All right. Joe Biden's advantage over Trump with black voters is currently smaller than Hillary Clinton was. Now, you got to understand, Hillary Clinton was black people's first lady. Yeah, I mean, Bill Clinton was supposed to be the first black president, right? Not. And everybody love a woman that stands by her man like Tammy Wynette, right? All right, so let's get into the story. This is CNN, and if CNN covering this war, whoo. It said the death of George Floyd and subsequent protesters reshaped the presidential race. It brought race relationship, racism, and police brutalities in the front. Now, not for nothing, these neural loops over here, man, these headphones are awesome. Anyway, that's just a side subject. Got a pair of these suckers. They are awesome. That's why they popping up right here, right now. But let's get back to the story. In that time, former Vice President Joe Biden advantage over President Donald Trump expanded from about 6 points to closer to 10 points. Interestingly, however, Trump continues to do something perhaps unexpectedly among black voters, hold his own against Biden's relative to many people's expectation. There have been over 10 national live interview polls since the protests began for which I could assess black voters' sentiment in the presidential race, although altogether we're looking at well more than 1,000 interviews. Now, understand this, people. We got all these polls in 2016 saying Hillary Clinton was kicking Trump behind, and you know what happened with that, you know. Biden leads in those polls by 83% to 8. 83% to 8, or a 75-point margin. Now, of course, it's according to the polling. It's according to who's doing the poll. It's according to who they're calling in the Democrat graphics of the person that they're calling. Are they liberals? Are they libertarians? Are they Green Party? Are they Democrats? I mean, all that factors in. That, of course, is a huge advantage for Biden, but it also represents a small improvement to Trump since 2016. Hillary Clinton was ahead of Trump by a 79-point margin. Now, I want y'all got to get that. Right now, this current day, 8/2/2020, 11:36 p.m., Biden leads in the polls by 83% to 8%, or 75 points. Hillary Clinton was ahead of Trump by 79 points. Margin among black registered voters in the pre-election polls taken right before the 2016 election, as compiled by the New York Times' Nate Cohen. Biden, for what is worth, is equaling Clinton 83% in those polls. Trump is picking up a lot of the vote that went to third-party candidates. How is Trump picking up the votes that went to third-party candidates? Why are you always attributing Trump gain to third party? Why are you not contributing the gain to Joe Biden to third party? Because according to this, you're going to try to make it seem like it's the third party fault that Trump looking a little bit, holding his own among black voters when it come to Joe Biden. And we're going to deal with this a little later because this is bull BS. Giving away margins of error work, it gets smaller as the results get more extreme. This slight improvement for Trump from 2016 is statistically significant. Biden currently has such a large lead overall that Trump's small gain among black voters doesn't really matter. Oh, so if it doesn't matter, why are you writing about it? Why are you taking your sweet time doing this article if it does not matter? Now, let me repeat that. Biden currently has such a large lead overall that Trump's small gain among black voters doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the 2020 election. So according to their polling, even though Trump is gaining some black votes, a lot of it is immigrant blacks. A lot of them are conservative blacks. The real church folks that don't like abortion and a bunch of other stuff. But if the race for president tightens, Trump's small gain with black voters could make a difference. Bruh, it's gonna make a difference. You gotta understand the black vote is the only vote that counts right now, and that's the reason why they trying to do everything for everybody when it comes to legislation. That's the reason why they trying to do more for gays so they can gain the gay vote, more for the immigrants so they can get the immigrant vote. Anything that the Democratic proposed for is to swallow up the original black vote. And when I say the original black vote, I mean ADOS. I mean those who came from American descendants of slaves. I have to say that a little different. I normally say ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, but I'm going to say this a little bit different because just because you came to America and you're American citizen and you're a descendant from slave doesn't mean you're ADOS. So let me say this like this. What you worried about, the Democratic Party is trying to do whatever they can to swallow up those who descended from American slave, the American slave trade. Now let's get back to this. It could cost Biden 0.5 points nationally on the whole compared to where Clinton ended up. That may not seem like a lot, though it could make the difference in a close election. And of course, Biden's margin with black voters may tighten further in the margin with other voters also shift. Historically, Trump is doing as well as probably even a touch better than Republicans normally do among black voters. While we don't have a bulk of the pre-election polling for many prior years like we do for 2016, the American National Election Studies pre-election polls show that since 1964, an average Democrat has earned 86% to the average Republican 6%. The 80-point margin is wider than the current 70-point margin Biden current earns. Other post-election survey which do make for as good as comparison because pre-election polling has undecideds also suggest that Biden-Trump is smaller than the Clinton-Trump gap. Moreover, it doesn't seem that black voter sentiment overall has changed since the protests, so you think. Stop assuming. It began in late May. An average of polls dating back to early April gives Biden the same 83% to 8% lead he has in more recent polls. This confirms other studies that show that Biden gains since the protests began have been concentrated among white voters. As I noted last month, Biden seemed to be doing considerably worse than Clinton among Hispanic voters. That's why y'all kissing Hispanic behind, Latinos, or Latinx, or, whatever you want to call it, to get their vote and do anything you can to get the Hispanic vote. Now, Trump knows the Hispanic vote is a growing vote. And it's a border vote. And if need be, well, let me get to that a little later. Let me get it off my chest. If need be, Trump will do some incredible things on behalf of DACA, on behalf of letting people in the country when he originally didn't want them to come in the country. But Trump will do whatever he can to turn that around and get more Hispanic voters on his side. You ain't going to be able to keep them if you do that, Democrats. Now, when you dig a little bit deeper, you see that Biden doesn't seem to be as well liked as Clinton was among black voters. An average of 6 live interview polls taken since late May have his favorable rating of 74% to an unfavorable rating of 15% among black voters. 15%. Clinton, on the other hand, averaged an 81% favorability rating to 13% unfavorable rating in the pre-election polls taken right before 2016. You realize that 74% unfavorable rating is huge. This comes as Biden is vastly more important than Clinton was overall in these same polls. Biden's net favorability rating currently stands at 0.3%. Clinton was negative 13 points at the end of the 2016 campaign. Again, the biggest shift toward Biden has been caused by white voters. Trump, if anything, is slightly more popular than he was among black voters. His net favorability among black voters is at 76%. You do realize that's hell of good compared to any other Republican. Hell of good. And if you start finding ways to chip away at that black vote, and there's many ways he can that y'all not going to be able to stop, he may do it. It's better than the 81% he had at the end of the 2016 campaign. This matches prior polling indicating Trump jobs approval rating was a little higher among black voters than you might expect given his performance with them in 2016 election. A good electoral news for Biden. The good electoral news for Biden, however, is that there are a lot more white voters in the country than either black or Hispanic voters. Oh, so just keep touting that. Let me get to that in a moment. Let me stop. No, let me stop. Let me get back to me. Understand this. This is a misstatement. It doesn't matter where there's a lot more white voters in the country than black or Hispanic voters. It matters who actually get their butt out to go and vote. And the Democratic Party always depend on black voters, not Hispanic voters, but black voters to get the numbers out to get the votes. They cannot win without the black vote at this current moment. That's why they're trying to do everything they can to bring in everybody into the party so they can swallow up the black vote or never really get to the point where they don't have to depend on the black vote. And right now they're doing whatever they can to kiss our butt to get that black vote because they know how significant it is. And the talk of reparations and no agenda, no black vote among a certain demographic of growing black voters is getting real. But I'll finish that in a moment. But to sit here and say more of a white voters also make up disproportionately shares of the electorate in swing states, especially in Great Lakes battleground state, this helps to explain why Biden is doing quite well nationally in those particular swing states. Let me tell you something. The only reason Biden is doing well in any state right now is because Trump has fouled up this coronavirus thing. And you can't really blame Biden because he's not a legislator and he has no power to do anything about it. All he can do is hide in his basement like Trump was hiding in his basement when those protesters was out there in Washington, D.C., trembling up and scared. If he come out and say one thing too much, it could hurt his campaign. It's a doggone shame that we as black people are so freaking scared of Trump that we're going to give Biden a pass to just coast to this freaking election and not demand something from him. And shame on James Clyburn giving him the nod without demanding something for him from Biden for the vote or for the endorsement in behalf of his people. Now let me calm down. Because I get excited, I can't think straight. Well, this helps to explain why Biden is doing quite well nationally in these particular swing states. Furthermore, Biden's strong gain with white voters relative to black and Hispanic voters is another reason why his path to the White House may go through the Great Lakes than the Sun Belt, where blacks and Hispanics make up a large share of the votes. So in other words, your base, your most important base, the black vote, it doesn't matter now because Trump is doing so bad. Joe Biden don't need to kiss black people's feet behind or anything to get the vote because they're going to do it anyway. And I'm sorry to tell you, black folks, that's your fault. That's your fault. It ain't mine. Because I stand by the philosophy, I would never ever cast my vote to any bigot, any liar, any racist, and any rapist. And we got that on both ends. Why? You cast your vote, whether you cast your vote or not, it's still a vote for the other person. Stop with that psychobabble, fake psychological crap. It's bull crap. You don't know the science of voting? In order to win an election, votes have to be tallied. You can't tally something that's not there. A no vote don't count. Only a vote count. So since you're going to vote for the lesser of the rapists, biggest rapists, since you're going to do that, guess what? No matter what they do in office, it's on your hands. It's not on mine because I didn't give them my vote. You do understand whether you vote for the lesser of two evils, whether you vote for the lesser of the rapists, whether you vote for the lesser of the racist, whether you vote for the lesser of the bigot, you do realize your vote is the ultimate support to that person. Whether you like it or not, it's your ultimate support. Me not voting doesn't give me support. Me not voting say I don't support either one of you. You can't count my vote no matter how much you try to figure this out in a psychological Jedi mind trick way. You can't count my vote toward an election if I don't go out, get in the polling booth and pull the lever or check mark on the computer. It has to be tallied. So those who are really responsible for a person getting in office is the person who actually put the person in office. You got to literally put them in office. Now, the reason Joe Biden is doing well is because Trump suck at this. What do you mean? Trump suck at crisis. I'm not going to necessarily say as president, but definitely as crisis president, he sucks. He can't handle it. He let his knowledge of the power of positive thinking, something he grew up with, think that's going to play in everything. Not play in your personal life, bro, but that don't work on everybody in America, bro. You can't positive think your way into other people's lives. Now, here's the deal. Trump. The only thing that brought Trump numbers down is COVID. Before COVID, there was no way Joe Biden could have ever touched Trump's feet. Nowhere, never. And Trump sucked. Don't get me wrong. He's not a good president, but Biden ain't all that hot either. His record is horrible. His record of being law and order is more vicious than Trump. More vicious. Most of the cracking heads in the street and locking people up and beating them up and shooting them and all that came by way of the crime bill. Who Joe Biden wrote it from. As he said, I birthed that baby, delivered it from my bare hands, spent many a nights awake, not giving Jill the business because I had to take care of this business. So the smartest strategy he got is to stay inside and not say one thing. But that's going to wear off. We still got time. And here's the ticker. Joe Biden can't push for another stimulus. Joe Biden can't push for money in the pockets of the people. And Joe Biden definitely can't allow, and I know y'all going to hate me for saying this, I want Trump to allow the privilege of a patient and doctor to be sacred. I don't understand why people think you banning a medication from me using is no different from you banning somebody from getting an abortion. You can get an abortion and it's your body and nobody need to get involved with it. Not the medical industry and not the government. So why you want to get involved with me for this? Because just to let you know, I had COVID-19, just to let you know. And I didn't want to tell anybody because I told them about the treatment they were mocking. But I got to the point, you can mock away, bruh. You can laugh all you want. You can shame it. You can say it's not true, but you can't tell me that, doc. Because I took the regimen of hydroxychloroquine. Let me shut up. I ain't going to say the word because they'll ban me. I took the H, I took the Z, and I took the A. And in 8 hours, my lungs were wide open breathing again. And in 10 days, I was free. It worked for me. It may not work for everybody, but you should at least look into it and stop letting these nut wings tell you something going to kill you. And there's no proof that it has killed anybody. And if it did do harm to anybody, now it may have did harm, and it's not the medicine, it's the person who given the medicine because they were doing it in late treatment. And it was given too much, trying to see if they can get a reversal in the reaction of what the virus was doing. It's not the medication fault. It's the fool who was giving them the medication. Therefore, they had to rescind the restrictions. And now it's a different story. Now, just to let you know, I take supplements. I take Curtisin, 1,000 milligram a day. I take, matter of fact, right here, 1,000 milligram a day. Take zinc, one zinc. Take me elderberry. Is it a cure? No. But I strongly believe personally it'll lower my risk of catching it. Do I go out there without a mask and washing it? Nope. Whatever way that I can get into my arsenal of protection, I'm going to receive. I'm going to read on it. I'm going to receive it. And I'm not going to let nobody deter me from this. And here's the deal. If it comes out true that some of this stuff Trump talked about help people, even though he loused this up, if somehow, some way, certain medications actually help people beat COVID, then his weakness is gone and there can be a turnaround. If Trump end up doing something good on COVID and Trump end up doing something on the economy and putting money back in the hands of the people and making sure they aren't dealing with healthcare and stuff like that, if Trump managed to do something like that, he'll have a turnaround among white voters. And more importantly, if he actually do policies that will lift up the black community, be first. If he actually stay focused and say, this is what I'm going to do to the black community, specifically black people who have been here since the foundations of slavery, their lineage. we will turn around so fast on Joe Biden behind his head would spin. And honestly speaking, anybody under 45 and under is not into Joe Biden. Most of the people have been feared into Trump. They bought the fear bullet, and they might take that fear to the ballot box. But if somehow some faith and hope come from the other end, I'm sorry. And I'm not voting for neither of these turkeys, but I'm sorry. You're going to see Trump take more black votes than you ever imagined. If Trump came up with a true black agenda written by true black economics, nonpartisan, and he began to give cash payments to the tune of trillions, you can call this election a wrap. So I don't care how many white people you got. I don't care how many white people that has leaned over to Joe Biden's side. The point is, who is going to get out and vote? Oh, we're going to have mail-in ballots. All of that is not solid yet. And just because you have mail-in ballots and just because Trump is a little nervous on mail-in ballots doesn't mean if you don't give black people what they need, they ain't going to vote for you in the mail-in ballot. So the bottom line is Joe Biden is losing his black vase, and more things are going to happen down the pipe that's going to cause him to lose it. And if Trump start doing something for black people, he's going to lose it even more. And the whole bottom line is we the one get out the vote. We got out the vote more than Hispanics, more than white people. That's why the Democratic Party has been depending on us for so long, and we have been foolishly giving them our allegiance without them giving us allegiance, and by us getting something in return for our faithfulness and our determination to keep them in office. That is about to change.